Good morning, everyone. I am Jake R. Lopez from BS Ed English 3.1. This morning, I am going to discuss the extensive and intensive listening. I know you already have an idea or a schema about this topic because Miss Jolene Sabado already tackled this on her report last meeting. So what I will do is to elaborate this too. Therefore, without further ado, let's proceed now to the discussion. What is intensive listening? Intensive listening focuses primarily on brief listening exercises. So the time that you are putting is just only a short period of time in intensive listening. So when you do intensive listening practice, you are paying most attention to pronunciation, grammar, and vocabulary rather than the overall meaning. So in intensive listening, you are paying most attention to pronunciation, grammar, and vocabulary rather than the overall meaning. By doing this, you will be able to understand the sentence or the context of the given instructions. For instance, there are words that aren't familiar to you, and those words are the highfalutin words. So in order for you to understand that, you will concentrate to those words and you will study them. Furthermore, intensive listening focuses mostly on forms. Just like what I've said, this type of listening is often found in exams, where it is important to understand precise information or words in the listening context. By focusing on these aspects, intensive listening practice helps students to build a groundwork for language acquisition, meaning by listening attentively by focusing on the pronunciation, grammar, and vocabulary. So since you are understanding the basic components parts of the language, you can now build on these skills over time. And once you master this skill, it would be easy for you to learn and understand things. And number 4 is intensive listening is particularly important for beginning and intermediate students. So the intermediate students are the grade 4 to 6, and on the other hand, the beginners are the grade 1 to 3. So if they master these things at the young age, it would be easier for them to cope in any listening activity. So suggestions for intensive listening practice. Duolingo is one such website that uses a mix of audio and written activities. The audio is helpful in intensive listening practice because the activities force you to focus on grammar and vocabulary that you have just learned. So Duolingo is one of the most famous learning platforms in today's society. And Duolingo is the most popular language learning platform and the most downloaded education app in the world, with more than 300 million users. So I remember in Facebook, I connected my FB account to a group wherein you would encounter different kinds of people, culture, and language. So the name of the group is, I think it's Language Nerds. And I believe Ate Evelyn is also connected in this group. So the aim of this group is to educate the people and encourage them that the language is really important. And some of the members of these groups are encouraging us to use this application, which is this Duolingo, because it will help us a lot. It will help you a lot if you want to study a foreign language or your target language. And it will train you by answering the written activities and the audio activities. And the next one is Google Translate. Google Translate allows you to type in whatever phrase you want translated. This makes it easy to use Google Translate for intensive listening practice with any phrase or block of text you like. You might even try to pasting a chunk of text from a website that you are reading. So I know we are all familiar in Google Translate because personally during my high school days, I always use this whenever there are phrases or texts that I couldn't understand, even how to pronounce the proper pronunciation of a word. Then after that, after knowing the proper pronunciation of the word, I will imitate it. And Google Translate is available for iOS and Android. Additionally, Google Translate allows the students or any individual to type in whatever phrase or words you want to know or you want to translate just like what I did during my high school days. And the next one is translate a text from your native language to your target language to hear how the word order changes and what individual vocabulary words are used. For instance, your first language or your native language is Tagalog, and the target language that you want to study or learn is the English language. So, in order for you to be knowledgeable about your target language, you need to expose yourself in it. Therefore, if you want to hear your native language into other language to be translated, you can use the Google Translate. And you will hear how your native language be translated in the English language or in the target language you want to study. And also, you can also translate your target language or the English language into your native language, which is the Tagalog. And the next one is do guided activities that force you to focus on the basic parts of the language. Guided listening practice with questions to test your skills will help you to pay more attention to the activity itself. So for instance, this lyrics training. So this lyrics training is an easy application wherein you can enjoy the activity by listening and watching the music video. So by this, the students or the learners would enjoy the activity because it is a fun way to learn and improve their foreign language skills or their target language. Through this lyric training activity, their receptive skills will be more active. Additionally, this lyric training has a difficulty level, which are the easy, medium, and hard. And aside from that, there are also 3 game modes you can choose for each song. The beginner, intermediate, expert. So in the beginning mode, 25% of the blanks you need to answer. And the expert mode means players have to fill in all the lyrics by themselves. No clues at all. And the next one is extensive listening. So what is extensive listening? Extensive listening focuses on longer activities. So the focus of extensive listening is on the longer activities such as watching a movie. For you to be able to understand the context of the movie, you must listen carefully for the reason that it would help you to identify for the specific lesson of the movie. That's why you need to pay attention in everything that the characters are saying. So rather than focusing on individual parts, extensive listening focuses on overall understanding. Meaning, you are not just only focusing on the individual parts because extensive listening focuses on overall understanding. If you can still remember, the focus of intensive listening is the pronunciation, grammar, and vocabulary rather than the overall meaning. So let's go back to extensive listening. In extensive listening, you do not have to translate each word that being said by the characters. You don't have to focus on the grammar rules. As a substitute, you must try to understand the audio or the whole context of the video. And again, you are understanding the whole context of the video, not just only a word. Therefore, this actively illustrates that extensive listening focuses on overall understanding. Additionally, extensive listening helps the students to understand the spoken language in a real-world context. And the next one is this is particularly important for intermediate and advanced students who are looking to transition from academic understanding of the language towards full fluency. So the significance of extensive listening for intermediate and advanced students is that it helps them to increase their vocabulary and to improve their listening comprehension. The students who are looking for transition from academic understanding of the language towards full fluency will benefit from extensive listening. This is a way to practice the learner's English extensive skills that may help them to get context from what they're listening to and will help them to expand their lexical. So let's proceed now to suggestions for an extensive listening practice. Number 1 is listen to audiobooks. So audiobooks is known for helping the students to improve their comprehension and vocabulary by listening. Compared to reading, listening to audiobooks allows us to really understand the context because you can also imagine the story in every words that being uttered. And also, we all know that in extensive listening, you need to focus on overall meaning rather than the individual words, because if you focus on the individual words, there might be a chance that you wouldn't be able to catch up or understand the audiobooks because you focus only to the words, not on the whole context. And in audiobooks, you also have a choice of what language do you prefer to hear. And these are some examples of several different language in audiobooks. These are Spanish, French, German, Italian, Russian, and Portuguese. So beginners may try children books which will use a more limited vocabulary. Intermediate students might try short stories which are less overwhelming than full-length books. So you can watch authentic media, watching movies, TV, and other entertainment is useful for extensive listening. So watching an authentic media and watching books nor other entertainment is useful for extensive listening in a way that it allows the students to expand their understanding through listening to the any kind of media. And if ever you have a problem in searching an authentic media in your target language, you can always use the application YouTube. We all know that YouTube is very accessible even up to these days, especially to our loved ones or to our sisters. And everything you want to know is on the YouTube. That's why if you want to hear an authentic news based on your target language, you can easily access it by having an internet connection. Additionally, in YouTube, you can find an English movies for kids, romantic Korean movies, just like in the audiobooks. It is really important to choose the media that is appropriate level for you. The children or beginners may try action-packed entertainment that leans heavily on dialogue. On the other hand, the intermediate students can try comedies that has more dialogue but less intense or complex plots. And the advanced students can try serious vocabulary, intensive dramas to sharpen their extensive skills. And the next one is, how can you get both intensive and extensive listening practice? So, here is, use at least one resource appropriate for each type of listening. You can use both intensive listening and extensive listening resources in your regular study routine. For instance, in intensive listening practice, you might want to use a lyric training, or a website that consists with audio components. And when it comes to extensive listening, you might want to use an audiobooks. Remember this. Listen and listen, eventually you will master this too. And it is better to study 10 minutes a day than 2 hours a week. Because if you expose yourself in this too, it will it will be easier for you to connect to real world content. And the next one is listen to music. Listening to music in your target language is fun. So if you want to use intensive listening in listening to music in your target language, you need to pay attention in every word or lyrics of the song on how the words or how the lyrics work together. And if you want to use the intensive listening, you can just only understand the overall meaning of the song. That concludes my report. Thank you for listening.